All right, welcome to episode 47.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yep, so episode 47 of Nerds by Screenlight. My name is Aaron. I'll introduce everybody else. We don't usually do kind of warnings or anything about with these episodes. And this is less of a warning as more of just like a, hey, we're heading into a conversation about a movie called Jojo Rabbit. And Jojo Rabbit is a movie that deals directly with the latter end of World War II in Berlin, Germany, and especially focuses in on the Hitler Youth and our titular character, who is Jojo, and his 10-year-old experience as the World War II is heading into the end. And he is very much at the beginning of the movie a believer in the Nazi Party and the hate for the Jewish people, the anti-Semitism, and all of that. And it's a movie that really almost kind of grabs you and doesn't let you go until the very end. There are some moments of levity, which we'll talk about as we go through. But if you're somebody who, getting into something like this for the next hour and a half or however long this takes us is going to probably set your day off into not a great start, I would encourage you to take another time to listen to this episode and or take a break from this episode if you need to, because it's intense. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that we just kind of go, oh, that's 16 layers of what?
Yeah.
And so it's also intended as satire. The director and the guy who plays the parody of Hitler in the film as one of the invisible friend of Jojo, intentionally was stated as he made this movie that he's Jewish, number one, but he made his caricature of Hitler intentional to make fun of the man as much as possible.
But that's the writer.
Yeah. Correct. And the director.
What?
Yeah,
okay.
Tahiti. I can't remember his last name. He's a big time guy. But yeah, he was intentional in how he portrayed and wrote and had Hitler and the Nazi situation portrayed. He was, because he's like, I want it to be. I would want Hitler to squirm. I would want Hitler to be the most angriest about the portrayal ever, and that was intentional on his part. So. All of that to say, today's podcast episode features Jojo Rabbit, which is a very, very interesting film, and it takes a unique perspective that not a lot of movies have in the past. The only one I can recall is Downfall, which was a very serious movie with serious actors and serious stuff like that. So, all of that to say, be aware of what we're getting into. Feel free, again, to pause, step back, maybe do this episode another time when you have an hour and a half to really get into the conversation and be okay with that. Otherwise, for the moment, my name is Aaron.
My name is Vicki.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Zoe.
And this is going to be Jojo Rabbit episode 47 of the Nerds by Screenlight podcast. And we'll be right back in just a moment.
Get nerdy with me. Talk nerdy to me. Get nerdy with me. All I really need for you to do is just please.
I can stop.
Talk to me. Talk nerdy to me.
All right, welcome back to Nerds by Screenlight, episode 47. My name is Aaron.
My name is Vicki.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Zoe.
And here we go. So, Jojo Rabbit. It's
another movie we've picked that doesn't pick a lane.
No.
It does not.
No.
It's horrifying, but then it's funny. It's satire, but it's also real.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself at one point in this movie like, oh, that's cute. And I didn't expect to do that.
Right. You didn't expect to feel that emotion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unique in that it gets you to feel when you least expect it. Mm-hmm. And then when you do expect it, you get something different. It's a wacky movie. It's weird to say that about a World War II movie, but it is. I mean, Rebel Wilson plays a weird and wacky lady.
Is that your lady, Amy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just love when they're in the pool and she just starts scooching over.
Yes.
I know an example. I had an uncle.
It's just like, what?
Hey, wait, did you or didn't you? I can't decide if this is a real story or not.
Right?
Well, and
Seems a little fabricated.
When we get to that, we'll talk about why that piece of dialogue exists. All right, so we start the movie with Jojo.
Yeah.
And
In his room and talking to his imaginary friend.
talking to his imaginary friend
Who
Adolf.
is? Yep.
Adolf. And
So
he's wacky.
yeah, he's obviously So we have to, when we think about imaginary friends, right? We have to realize that whatever narration is happening out of that is based primarily in JoJo's head. Now, there's some things that the imaginary friend says that JoJo could not possibly have known, and so that's where we talk about suspension of disbelief, where we kind of just go, okay, we're going to let that fly because that's what the movie's trying to be a little funnier and whatever. But we have to also remember that everything we hear and see from Adolf, the imaginary friend, is absolutely out of JoJo's head, and is motivated to try and like shore up JoJo's doubts about it. So yeah, we get that.
He's basically going off to this training camp.
Yep. So it's the Hitler Youth training camp. So the timeline, as I said in the introduction, is the end of the war. We are probably months away, obviously, from the end, and Sam Rockwell in a role.
I mean,
just absolutely brilliant. Like he's just this. You see him drinking so much during the movie. He is his little thing.
You must ask why I'm doing this. Well, I asked myself that when I made that dumb mistake
right
in battle.
Yeah. Which you have to wonder, was it actually a dumb mistake, or did he intentionally like take himself out?
Oh, I never thought about that. I just
Yeah.
assumed it was a dumb mistake.
So
but yeah,
the other layer that we again, spoiler alert, the movie came out in 2019, you just got to deal with it, is that's the character that Sam Rockwell is portraying is, we find out, gay. And we all know how Nazi Germany handled gay people. Mm-hmm. Not great.
nope.
The irony.
Yeah. So it's what is fascinating.
I made a comment about that to Zoe when there was like a scene where he's like looking at another dude.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, he's gay, but I was just joking.
No, it's real.
No,
So,
it's pretty
okay,
obvious by the end too.
I had read it. And I was like, Aaron, there is some tension. And Aaron's like,
Yep.
yeah, they're gay. And I'm like,
Yep.
obviously.
And
Okay.
the beautiful thing about it is the movie doesn't shy away from the fact that, I mean, Sam Rockwell's character has failed downwards. He was in the front, injured himself, lost his eye, and then he's teaching Hitler Youth, and then JoJo
He gets demoted again.
demoted again, and so
And he's having to hide who he,
really is.
yeah, so he doesn't get killed.
Right. So I think what he's doing is he's trying. I mean, the JoJo getting involved and throwing the grenade and it bouncing, and like
Don't do
that was
that.
not a part of the plan. He was just like, don't do that. But he ends up obviously getting demoted out of the Hitler Youth education and ends up. So anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Beat up by a mom.
Yeah,
fun to watch.
That was great.
We'll get to ScarJo in a second here.
Yes.
So yeah, so Jojo Rabbit goes to It's interesting how this movie is equal parts funny, but equal parts like, oh dear Lord, that's real. A lot of it, part of it is obviously the division of the men and women. Oh, the men, you'll get to do with the guy. Boys, you'll blow stuff up. And the women, you will learn how to do these things. You'll learn how to be barefoot and pregnant. And the girls are like, oh.
Like, what?
You can hear them going, oh, we want to do those things.
Yeah.
And so it's the thing about it is it's rooted in the reality of what I think people were so separated from World War II. A lot of times, a lot of our witnesses and our survivors are going, or we're losing them.
Yeah, they're almost all gone.
We forget what fascism and tyranny really looks like, and not
Those opening clips to me were, I really appreciate the fact that they showed how the excitement, the fanaticism, the
Yep.
enthusiasm behind the Nazi movement, and tying in the Beatles song to it. I was like, that was a cool way of using
Yep.
music to.
And that's an
Portray
actual
how
song
crazy
that
it
was
was.
recorded in the 1960s in German. Like it's an actual song. It's not, they didn't make it especially for the movie. It was actually recorded by the Beatles in German in like the 60s or whatever. So it's a legit recording. And so is David Bowie's final song at the end. It's an actual song that he released in German in like 70s or 60s or 70s. Anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's this. So this movie does a lot of things, and you're right. There is a lot of, and part of what Tahiti said is he said people talk about never forget or never again, and he's
Yeah.
like, but there's certain. And his statement was there's certain people in this world who can't seem to remember that. They can't seem to stick with that. And so his point in making this movie is like, I want you to see it. And kind of what we were talking about off air. This movie doesn't let you flinch. It will not.
It gets down in the dirt and it's like, this is what happened.
And it pulls you down there and says, look at this. Look at this. Don't look away. You get to see what this looks like when people become these hateful, genocidal, like murdering people. And it's like that reality, I think, is one of those things where it does make you uncomfortable. And I don't know how you guys felt, but it was...
I think having children made it even more impactful because, I mean, here is a 10-year-old, like, full on encompassing and living this lifestyle and, like, has no problem with it.
Yep.
And at the same time, his mom's like telling him to chill out, you know?
Yeah, like, just be a normal 10-year-old. Like, go play.
Go climb a tree and fall out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got let's at least get where. So he we can talk about now like how he got his name. Yeah, Jojo Rabbit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this is something I think that they probably did. I didn't do enough research to find out if this was actually something they did in the camps with the kids and the trainings.
Probably.
But they more than likely this was like a way to top. And again, this is in the last months of the war.
I've heard them do it with a different, not a rabbit, but with something else.
Yeah.
That I've heard of.
So the teenage officers in charge of this camp are like, you believe you can kill? Oh yeah, I can.
And their eyes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, they definitely picked the solid actors and actresses for this because there's the women, there's ladies as well in the mix, and they're like, kill the rabbit, and he's like, what? And they give him this cute, cuddly rabbit. And he just like holds it, and he's, you have to be able to kill it, and he just says, and he can't.
He tries to actually help it get away.
Yeah, he's like, run, and so then the soldier obviously picks it up and.
Oh.
Right in front of us, just does that, and then Jojo takes off running. He's like, "Oh, Jojo Rabbit, Jojo," and so he runs away, and he meets up with his pretend friend Hitler again, and Hitler's like, "You can do this. Be a rabbit. Be the rabbit." Da, da, da.
Yeah, he's like a rabbit's courage. They're out here every day.
Yeah,
I thought that
for
was a cool
carrots.
speech.
It was a really good speech.
but you have to also again, this is that filter. That's Jojo
Yeah.
trying to help himself find courage.
That's some good self-talk.
So, as bad as JoJo is, and in this movie, and Mom admits it later, she's like, he is an extremist. He's a believer. I can't fix it. I can't. I'm his mother, and I can't stop that. And so she even recognizes how far down the well of hatred this kid has fallen. And so it's not that she's given up on him because she still hangs out with him. She still tries to show him love, but she's a rebel. She's part of the resistance. And that does catch up with her eventually, which is another scene where movie just is like, no, you get to sit in this for a minute, get ready.
That threw me for a loop.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, but they did amazing foreshadowing to
Yeah.
that scene.
Yep, because we see her shoes several times.
Several times, there's that one where she's like on the ledge
Above
and
him.
he's like eye
Yep.
level with her shoes.
Oh. I didn't think about
When
that.
they go by that place one time before, and he's kind of
Yeah.
asking about it.
Yep,
And she's like, no,
And he doesn't
look.
want to look, and she makes him.
Yeah, she makes
Yeah.
him look. So you got to give credit to screenwriters and directors and producers and the actors and actresses of this movie. They really, it was a pitch. It's. I mean, we get to the end of it, we'll rate it, but it's a pretty solid, frame by frame, just brilliant, both foreshadowing but also imagery, like symbolism. Like it really, there's so much subtlety there that you just go, wow, this is a rich film. Somebody put thought and heart into this movie to wake us up and shake
And
us
even
around.
about like tying, like she would always
Oh, the
tie
tying
his
shoes.
shoes.
Yep.
That's the part that got me.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
That one. Woof. So yeah, he's a 10-year-old. He can't tie his own shoes. So
Which
he,
is accurate. I've
yeah,
seen it.
Yeah, it happens. We all struggle with something in our lives.
Yeah.
So Jojo meets up with
And he's got his little buddy there, Yorkie.
Yorkie.
No, Yorkie.
So cute.
Yeah,
Yorkie.
I love Yorkie because Yorkie
Why
is.
can't I be your best friend? Oh, I guess I'm just a fat kid. It's like, I like you, Yorkie.
We'll get to Yorkie in a second as well. So so then he's like, go and do things, and so Jojo takes off. And then we go back to Sam Rockwell, and he's like, I will lucky one of you will be able to take this grenade. And he doesn't even finish, and here comes Jojo, grabs it.
He just looks at him.
Right. He just what is happening? Who are you? What have you done with Jojo? And so Jojo, and I remember from watching behind the scenes, but I also knew it was coming. He takes it, throws it, bounces off the tree,
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude.
lands on the ground. Hitler
Like,
goes,
run.
oh, beep. And he goes, oh, beep. And he doesn't run fast enough. And
I don't think he
Don't
runs
do
at
that.
all. I
no,
think
he
just
doesn't.
stands
He
there.
just stands there, goes, uh-oh. Doesn't know what to do. And so, yeah, he ends up getting his face to face. No pun intended. And he ends up injuring his leg. He gets pretty serious injury to his leg.
And his face.
And his face.
What did
Yep.
they say? You look like a Picasso? I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are not friendly to him. So we get
which was, well, at the time, like, if you didn't look like the perfect
Yeah.
Aryan, like,
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely
even his
makes
mom
sense.
called him ugly. She's like, fortunately for me, I'm super attractive and perfect, and you're like ugly now, something like that. And I'm like, oh, geez.
Mom is
I wonder if she was trying to like bring him down a peg and be
I
like,
think
stop
so.
focusing on the war stuff. Be a kid.
right. So we see the scenes in the hospital.
Funny. That's the funny thing when they got him on the gurney.
Yeah.
And he like holds up his first person point
Right.
of view from him, and you just see him like hold up a bloody thumbs up.
To imaginary Hitler.
Yeah. It's everything's fine. It's great. So then they tell him, I'm sorry, you have to stay at home. You have to have physical therapy. You're not going to go to school because you're going to scare the other kids.
Which is just.
Well, but here's what it does. It's that plot device allows him to be home, allows him to just like he's allowed to just kind of wander through the movie and do whatever he wants because obviously it's in the waning parts of the war, so there's no real oversight. They're just like, okay, well, Jojo's not going to be at school anymore. He's at home. It's fine. And yeah, he ends up at home. What happens next?
Well, let's get to the fact that mom comes in and like the officer, the Sam Rockwell plays is just like his mother's gonna kill me, and she basically does.
Yeah,
Yep.
she whoops him up, man.
She slaps him and then knees him
Yeah.
in the family jewels. And he just like on the floor going, oh.
Like, of course I'll find him a great job.
Yeah.
Like, you better.
We have all kinds of opportunities for him.
Even though I got demoted.
Right.
Oh, is this when your lady comes up with all the different types of jobs he can do, or is that a
Yeah,
little
and
later?
she's like,
Yeah.
the propaganda.
Here's a
and the-
bag. Here's a gun. And
Yeah.
And she's like, no, don't give him the gun.
this one, Aaron was like, well, she can't take sarcasm. I'm like, she still gave him a gun.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because mom was like, say, hey, give him like kind of sarcastically said about giving him a gun. So then Rebel Wilson's character's like, okay, well, here's a gun. And I'm just like, no boy, no social emotional detection on Rebel Wilson's character's part. You have to wonder though with Rebel Wilson's character, like, did she get demoted along with it? Because she's in the same office as Sam Rockwell. Like they're now employed together. It's
By the way, that scene kind of takes me back to, remember Allo Allo, Aaron?
Yes.
How they were in that little office. It kind of reminds me of that.
yep. So we're
I'm trying to remember where I saw that before, and it was from.
Yeah, so there's a show called Allo Allo. It's from the BBC, I think, in the 70s or 60s.
It's the only other satire I've seen of like.
It's in the vein of like Hogan's Heroes, where the American POW prisoners were in a German POW camp, and so they were, it was like if you ever heard the line like "I know nothing, I know nothing." That's the sergeant, and so it's similar to that. It's in that vein. I think it's as good as or probably better than Hogan's Heroes, but it's an absolute hilarious
It's so funny.
show that it's brilliant.
They have like the POW guys like disguised as a cow at one point. One is the front and one is the back.
Yeah,
So
it's good stuff. So there you go. There's your weekend watching to go find it somewhere on your streaming platforms and or wherever you find your streaming videos, because we don't have physical media anymore. We don't own anything. Darn you, Amazon, and your awesome benefits and your terrible things. So
Speaking of that, my mom is actually trying to hunt down a physical copy of
Oh,
Grave
bless
of the,
her.
of Grave of the Fireflies
Okay.
for us.
okay,
so cool.
well, we appreciate her efforts.
Thank you.
She
You're
lives
very
in a,
kind.
She lives in a city where there's like multiple like movie stores.
Oh, okay.
That's helpful.
I
Yeah,
like that
so-
more like vintage, like older.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's fair. I'm excited. We'll be excited to finally get this opportunity to watch it down the road at some point. So we'll continue the Indiana Jones adventure to find the long lost copy.
Okay.
And there won't be any Nazis chasing her. It's gonna be
No.
great. It's the added
Speaking
benefit.
of Nazis.
Speaking of Nazis, so so we got that whole thing. So he goes and he starts papering the town, right?
Yes.
And he drops off some stuff, and he runs into his friend, and
Who now has a rifle?
who now has a rifle, as a 11-year-old
In a paper material uniform.
cardboard
Yeah, I
uniform.
was like, what?
So apparently,
No, it's paper-like.
paper light.
I'm like, sure it is.
So I guess what they're alluding to, and I think this did probably happen. I haven't done my research, but they're running out of materials, and so
We're also running out of soldiers.
running out of soldiers and materials, and so to that end, they didn't have cloth. They didn't have enough, so they created paper, like construction paper.
We totally skipped over him going home and finding an unknown guest in his house.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
Because Yorkie brings her up to Yorkie.
oh,
and
that's right. Yeah.
Yorkie
that's
just
true.
blows it off. He don't even worry about it.
Okay, so yeah, he does come home, And he's like, hey, he's looking for mom, right?
Yeah, and his mom's
hey,
not
mom,
there.
she's not there.
And he hears something.
He hears some shifting, and so he goes to investigate. Puts on his little flashlight and gets his
Yeah.
knife out.
So this room, he has a sister who is
Inga.
Inga, who's passed away, and
Due to influenza.
that's what it was. I didn't
Yep,
know
she
what
died
it
by
was.
from influenza. What's interesting is, and we find this out later, nobody really knows that Inga's dead.
Yeah, which is kind of weird.
Well, you have
Well,
to.
it's during the war. I wonder
So,
if that had an effect on it.
Part of it, I'm guessing, part of the war like this is hard to keep track, maybe ish. But also, mom is in the resistance and has been in the resistance for some time. And so we later find out that dad is also in the resistance, or is also probably dead. We don't really know.
So she probably just lets Jojo like join up for that stuff to protect him.
Right, to insulate the family, and doesn't tell anyone that Inga died, because if she died, then it's the Gestapo or the SS.
They're gonna come looking.
Well, not only that, they're gonna come. Oh, we have a grand, funeral for your daughter. This is a terrible crisis. I'm so sorry. What can we do to help you? Whatever. If they even had that at that point. So now the eyes are gonna be on mom, and for mom, she's like, I can't. And you get the idea that mom is also very much has a facade up, because with her son, the only time we really see true mom is when she's talking to our guest, and you see her really be honest with her about her son and the situation.
You see that brokenness,
Yeah, you do see
and
it.
that sorrow and that compassion.
Yeah. So,
By the way, this is one of my favorite scenes.
when he finds the woman, finds the girl.
Well, he thinks
Yeah.
like it's his sister's ghost or something because he hears all this like
Just such something a little kid would make. No one goes in this room. It's completely like it was, and
Yep.
there's a sound coming from there's this little secret passageway, which
He was so smart to figure that out.
oh
Yeah.
no
Like,
kidding.
yeah, like follow it from the floor all the
Yeah.
way.
Yep.
And I was just thinking about that going, as a kid, I would have been ecstatic to find something like that. As an adult, I would have been like, I'm calling the police.
Yeah.
I'm not looking in there. Who knows what's in there?
Yep. So he finds her, and she
Little
goes,
Jewish girl.
little Jewish girl. Her name is Elsa.
I just love how she's like, hi,
Yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. And he freaks out, runs,
drops his knife.
drops his
And she
knife.
takes it.
She picks it up.
She picks
and
it up.
holds him up with it.
And then he continues to run, gets to almost to try to, and so she basically says, you do this, I'm going to do this, and that, and the other thing. And you can't let your mother know that you found me, because otherwise then, like, da-da-da-da-da. And so he goes through a lot of, realizing what's really happening, that mom has indeed let a Jew into the house, which we know historically was a lot of things that happened both in Germany and other places.
Yeah.
In order to protect families or neighbors or relatives or just people that needed protecting, you would build out a hidey hole either in your basement or in a part of your apartment that you could stow a family in case of the Gestapo or the SS showing up. Mm-hmm. That was an absolute thing. This one handles it really well and kind of shows us that there was people who were trying to stop this madness. Not a lot of them, but there were some, and this is who she was.
I love it too. Like he pulls another knife on her.
And she takes that
She
too.
takes it away.
Where are all the knives?
But then I'm just thinking, like, do you only have 2 knives in that?
And
Also,
technically,
yeah,
one of them,
accurate.
and one of them was JoJo's.
Right.
So you only took one kitchen knife.
Although later in the movie, skipping ahead again, they're collecting kitchen items in
Yes.
order to make things for the war. And so I wonder if there used to be more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But they gave it. That's a theory I
Yeah.
just
That's
thought
true.
of.
So
Yeah.
she's looking for the knives, and obviously they're all gone. So he basically says, okay, well, we got to figure this out. And I think
Hitler's keeps trying to offer him a cigarette. He's like, "Stop offering me cigarettes."
10.
He's like, but I'm anxious.
what's interesting about it is obviously
Stressed up.
historically Hitler did not smoke. However, what's interesting is Tahiti said he did no research on Hitler. Absolutely none. And he uses some pretty strong language in his statement of why, which we're not going to repeat here. But he basically says, I could give a beep about that man, and I did
could
it.
Give a tiger's foot.
Yeah, I
Here you
don't I don't
go.
care. I'm going to just portray him in the way that
I think he did a
No,
great job, honestly,
Yeah.
because even without research, because I mean, Hitler supposedly was into art, and
yeah.
Yeah.
he just has that flamboyant artist vibe.
Yep.
So
absolutely,
yeah.
it's a fascinating portrayal, and Tahiti is an absolutely he wrote the movie obviously, and he portrayed and it's brilliant. It's a great scene stealing role. So now Elsa and him all right, this again. My plot brain is not altogether functional.
You're fine. It's just funny how like
got
he's
you.
being suspicious of his mom about everything.
Yeah.
Like questioning everything. Well,
Yeah.
are you gonna go to bed now?
Yeah.
She's like, well, I have some other little tidying up to do. Well, what is that?
Mom things.
Yeah.
Mom things. And
Right,
you have
so like he's like, oh, you're not eating that bread. I guess I will.
Yeah.
Like,
And Hitler gets up and leaves the room because he's and what I love about it again, because we go through that filter of imaginary Hitler is JoJo's consciousness and so even JoJo knows this was a bad decision.
Yes.
I'm gonna get in trouble. And I just love that moment of like he's just like, I'm out of here.
Mess with
Bye.
that mom.
Bye.
Bye, Felicia. You're on your own. So yeah, he pulls that later. Yeah, where are we at? So he meets the girl.
Well, they said he talks about how they're at an impasse.
Yeah, and they have to negotiate, and so he then basically
Oh, is this the pool scene where he's kind of like he's tiptoeing around like asking people about like what is a Jew and like
Yeah.
This is when he meets up with his friend and says, "I have a." And he's like, "Okay." Yeah, his friend doesn't really seem to care. Is not really invested in this whole thing. He's vibing, as you would say.
and he's like,
Yeah,
they're
that's a
not
good word.
scary.
No, he's not. He's just this kid who's just trying to live, trying to enjoy his life. Yeah, he's Yorkie. Yorkie. Archie Yates is the actor who portrayed him. So Yorkie is just kind of vibing, and he's like, "Yeah, it's paper-like," and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I love how Yorkie just kind of weaves in and out of the movie.
Yeah,
And in the end,
every time he has a bigger gun.
Yep.
literally.
Though they're running out of soldiers, so they just keep promoting him to whatever's next.
But you know that there was at least one documentary that you and I saw together where they showed the end of the war, and you see these. Honestly, they look like 8th grade boys in
Yep.
uniform walking by. It was horrifying.
Yep. Yeah, that was a reality. All right, so where are we at in the plot now?
Well, I think they decide. I'll let you stay here. You got to help me with my book.
Yeah, and he tells her like, okay, I want you to take this and draw me out where the location of all the Jews.
Like
She does
she
draw
knows
something.
all of them.
And she's like, okay, sure. So she takes it, she starts drawing,
Yeah.
and she hands it back to him, and it's just a picture of like his
She drew
Yeah,
him.
Yeah,
his
she drew
head.
his head.
He's like, "This is me. This is like a picture of my head." He's like, "Yes, that's where we live in your head."
I thought that was so clever.
She is very clever.
I love how she's just like her game is she is so much wiser and older
Yeah.
than the age she's portrayed because she's been through so much. And Counselor's Corner, we talk about trauma and we talk about that stuff. It pushes and pulls and almost shoves you into growing up far faster than you should ever have to.
And then you usually are going to have to go back and like
Deal with
heal
it.
your inner child. And
Yeah.
because you kind of missed being a child, kind of like
Yep.
JoJo, honestly, he's missing out on that opportunity.
Yeah. And we see a lot of him wrestling with that as this movie goes on, where he starts to realize it's all a lie. And it's not easy for a kid
Oh, no.
at 10 years old to be confronted with everything you know is wrong. And you're the baddie, and this is a bad situation. So yeah, it's rough.
And being all you've ever known, too. Like,
Yeah.
I was just thinking like Yorkie takes it the best.
Yeah.
Because later on, when he's like explaining to JoJo like what all was going down,
Yeah.
he just looks at him. He's like, "I'm going to go to my mom. I need a cuddle."
I need a cuddle. Yeah.
I felt that, too, by
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah. I was like, oh, buddy. So because Yorkie figures it out. He's like, yeah, Hitler's dead. He lied to us. He's been lying to us about all these things. Yorkie's probably that guy who's like, he's checking out information. He's at the, hey, what do you know? Like he knows what's up. He's
I'm
not
not able to die.
Yeah. I do love that moment.
As his uniform has the whole back blown
Burnt.
off.
Yeah.
And the sleeve is coming off.
Yeah. I love that is just his thought process. Like, I can't die. I got more than 9 lives, man. I don't know what to do about it. So I do appreciate them kind of putting him in there as kind of like, hey, there's still hope. We still there's a good kid here
I
somewhere.
think he is kind of the comic relief a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, he is. You kind of laugh, but it's not done in a way that's like harmful to the character.
Mm-mm.
It's not done in a way that's like, oh, look at this fat kid. Right. It's like, no, he's just kind of a guy who's bumbling through life, trying to survive, trying not to die, and how he gets there is just kind of like, okay, there, buddy, that's how we do it. All right, good talk. All right, so what's next after this whole moment?
So they start working on the book.
Okay, so he's like, yeah, I need you to tell me these things. And is this the point where she says we're allergic to all food?
Yes.
Yes,
Especially
she's hungry.
biscuits.
And he's like, wait a minute.
He's like, nice try. She just
Yeah.
kind of smiles, whatever.
Thought everything else went over your head.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So then he starts to like get information from her about like, you know, what the horns and how that works.
Where are
and-
the horns? They're under her hair.
Yeah. She's like, I'm too old. I'm not. Yeah, we grow into them when we're 21. And so she's
And they're hanging like bats?
yeah, hey, like
Like, what?
this
Crazy.
propaganda in World War II on all sides was rough, and pretty racist. And
It's just-
within
I mean, all you gotta do is go and watch any old school Looney Tunes
yeah,
to know what our propaganda was like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding.
yeah, and especially in war and conflict propaganda. It was so I don't imagine that that's not absolutely out of bounds for what may have been propagated out through Nazi Germany to try and turn the German people and to successfully do it, which is an awful thing against the Jewish people because
What's the idea of dehumanizing them, you know?
right once you in the public mind remove the level of humanity that someone should be treated, then you've won because now you can do whatever you want. And you say, okay, well now they're not human. So that's
I love that too because you mentioned like the dehumanizing, and there's like one moment where Jojo's talking to Elsa. That's her name, right? Elsa.
Yep.
Yep.
And Elsa says that he's not human.
She's like, I'm just like you, but human.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that was
I love
good.
that. Okay, so thank you for bringing that up, Zoe. So okay, so we're going to do a little bit of history. I'm a language arts teacher, but I also we it's covered under
You
humanity.
could have minored in
Dabble
history
a
if you
little
wanted
bit.
to.
I dabble. So we have Counselor's Corner. We have Humanities Corner now. As of today, welcome to Humanities Corner. Please tuck out your notebooks and begin.
And stop using that.
I
voice.
know. I think about it.
Stop it.
Or I could do like a full on like, welcome to
squirt bottle,
Humanities.
That's better.
Please take out your notebooks. Let's start working on some
I guess
humanity.
stomach that better.
Okay. Right. All right. So there's a consistent history in our shared human history, not just the United States but across the globe, where there are concerted efforts to dehumanize and to remove the power, the agency of a certain race or color or creed or whatever. And the one that I can speak to directly is in slavery times, there were actual scientists who wrote papers with scientific measurements and scientific proof that suggested that black people, were subhuman because the measurement and the shape of their heads was not that of white Caucasian races. And it not only came from scientists, but also from some liturgical, theological church places. Not all, again, but being very, very understanding of that was a concerted effort by a group in both science and some faith-based to dehumanize and remove that human element from the equation. So now people had the permission. Well, they're three-quarters human, whatever the measurements that they created, which again are vile, uncalled for, and horrifying. But that's the similar thing in World War II with Germany, is they basically said the Jew is these things. They are devils. They're going to take your kids. They're going to take your wives. They're going to do all these things, and they were successfully again. To be very clear, like anything, all this stuff we're absolutely against and horror and protest and however you want to phrase it. This is not like glorifying it, but the power that they used to remove the Jewish people's humanity, it worked, and people turned on them. There's a reason why the Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass.
Yeah.
There are events that have occurred.
The book burnings.
The book burnings where people's humanity and people groups' humanities are removed, so that people can then destroy them, murder them, whatever. So that is a lesson that we, I think, as a culture, have to be very mindful of, and it extends even to how we talk to each other. So if you've got somebody on the other end of the political, religious, moral, whatever aisle or whatever you have, the moment you start to view them as less than human, you got to take a step back. You got to hold yourself and go, what am I doing? Because no matter how much we disagree on most topics, to be very clear, there are some topics where it's just like, we're not okay with that. we have to be very mindful of how much we then say, well, they're wrong and they're not right and they're not human. This is just they're trash. They're whatever. Using that language about somebody else, and no matter their color, their creed, their whatever, you're taking away their value of their human value, their dignity. That thing we talk about at our alternative high school, we talk a lot about dignity. Everyone has a base amount of dignity that they are like. You could call it God-given. You can call it just the base level we should all treat. You can, however you want to phrase it.
Right.
We all have that base dignity, and you cannot, and should not remove that, no matter how much you hate somebody or how much you disagree with them or how much you think they're wrong. And the power, I think, of this film is when she says that line. It's a reality because people who do that to others, they've lost their own humanity.
Oh, totally.
that part of them, they've willingly given up of that and taken that piece of them and said, oh, I don't need that. I'm just going to hate. I don't care. I don't whatever. And so when she says that, it's
like a Uno reverse card.
right. It's
Wow.
like, whoa. And you sit in that and you go, dang.
Well, and then the added layer of like you're a 10-year-old and you already have so much hate in your heart.
Yeah.
That's like sad.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It's hard to, and so as teachers, three of us as teachers and educators and counselors, whatever you want to call us, these kind of movies do kind of hit us a little bit sideways, because I have run into and experienced students in my lifetime who have had that kind of hate and that kind of that rage and that dedication to an idea. That it's like, no, this is who I am. This is what I believe. And no, you're right. Like, it becomes just such a force within them. And because obviously they're young enough to not have any of their frontal lobe functioning, like they're just believing in it and pursuing it. And that's something that we would like encourage you out in the world. This is not a surprise statement, but the world right now is in chaos when it comes to a lot of conversations and how we look at each other and how we view each other and how we think about each other and how we talk to each other, both on social media and in person.
The thing is like Jojo doesn't even know what he hates.
Yeah.
He knows he hates Jews. He doesn't know what a Jew is.
Right.
It's like what he's trying to figure out.
And that's
What he's just so.
He's trying to do what he believes is right, what he's been taught.
It's kind of like how you have like these, like these alpha bro influencers or whatever on YouTube that are like getting in the minds of these youngsters.
the
nowadays.
Liver King, who is not really the Liver King.
Andrew Tate.
Yep.
God.
People like that.
Yep.
And it's like these kids just follow him. They follow the ideal, the what do they call it in the movie? The fanatic or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's all he is. He's like, oh, I'm a part of a club.
Yep.
And
There's a place for me, and they're talking to me, and so when we talk about Andrew Tate and others, because sometimes the YouTube algorithm, I somehow, for whatever reason, because I'll check out videos and I'm interested, like, okay, well, this is interesting. My algorithm will sometimes swerve me into it, and it's interesting.
the rabbit hole.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and I know we're taking a sidestep for a second, but just hold on with us. We'll get back to where we need to be. But there's to your point, Phil, there is this, and I as a 42-year-old, I have to recognize what I'm hearing. Because the clip starts out with like, hey, this guy's being disrespected by this girl because she's whatever, and then it's like you're an alpha, don't take their crap for nothing, blah, 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 blah. And I look at that and I go, that speaks to people, because there are people out there who don't feel like they're respected in their relationships, whatever reasons are not like the complexities of that is not the time we have for this podcast. But to your point is that it's that messaging. It's the algorithm. It's the power, and it's worse, obviously, in 2024 because it's everywhere. The algorithm between Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and everything else, YouTube, and the whole 9 yards, is powerful enough that it can get eyes on videos. And that rabbit hole that you were talking about, these kids, girls, guys, whoever, are going to get bought into this idea. And it's that confirmation bias. I'm going to keep watching these videos. I'm going to keep believing it because it's all I'm hearing. I'm not hearing someone say, hey, don't dehumanize a woman because she doesn't like you. Be okay with the fact that she may not like you and move on with your life. Like, say, okay, thank you for telling me that you don't like me that way. I'm going to go elsewhere. Cool. Moving
There's
on.
billions of people.
Right. There's so many more fishes in the sea. And it's so, but the content of those is like, you need to take a boss part of your life and be your own, and you need to be a master and all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, if I was 18 years old and I was hearing that and I needed that validation because I was a big old nerd and I didn't have the healthy, like, I would be like, yeah, okay, let me be a king. It's very insidious how that messaging can grab a kid and pull them in. And getting them to like get out of that or to deprogram them, because a lot of times it turns into a cult feeling, it's really hard because that's all they know. And they've been told by so many people on the YouTubes and TikToks, don't get me started on TikTok, because that's what, repetition helps solidify it. And then you come along and say, well, hey, let's critically think through this. They're not ready to critically think because they've just spent 6+ hours
Hearing the same messaging over and over.
Messaging.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
confirming
my
it.
personality now.
Yeah, I'm the captain now. You know what? It's like,
Well, and it goes back because Hitler was basically the first influencer, right? I mean, he was a very charismatic speaker. He
wow.
influenced a whole bunch, a whole
whole
country
nation. Yeah.
to go against this one group of people.
yep.
Which was extremely hypocritical.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to leave that. But okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because Hitler had families that were Jewish.
Yes.
He has,
And he had dark hair and dark eyes.
Yeah, he was.
So you are not a
Yeah.
perfect Aryan.
He was not what he said he was.
Yes.
But again, people believe, and they don't critically think. They don't go, maybe I don't want to be that one. Just because, hey, everyone wants to belong to something. We all have an innate need for it. We all want to be accepted. We all want to have ourselves be like, yeah, you matter. Hey, you're cool.
Yeah, and have that connection.
It's a powerful, I don't want to say drug, but it's a powerful drug. Acceptance is a powerful motivator. And you will do a lot of things to be accepted by people and to find your group and to foster that and to continue that.
That might even go against your own morals and
Yeah.
values.
Yeah. You find yourself selling out people that you never thought possible. And you're like, what am I doing with what? And it's too late. Like, you can't, getting yourself out of that and finding your way home.
Which is basically JoJo's struggle.
Yeah. And I thank you for that segue, Phil. That's fantastic.
I mean, it all did come to. I mean,
it
Yeah,
does.
it's really
Because
good.
it is that conversation. You have a 10-year-old kid who absolutely believes that Jews are everything that they say they are. Yeah. It's
She doesn't help either. She's like, we love shiny things.
Yeah.
like glass and gold.
Well, and I think here's what she's doing is she's trying to, and I don't know if she does it intentionally as a character. It's a fascinating thing where she's building a relationship with him.
Yeah.
Because she absolutely probably is scared.
Oh, yeah.
That he might get wise to her and his mom and trade her in. But the beauty of it is also so he loves his mom, despite the fact that he thinks she's an idiot, and he wants her to be safe. He doesn't want her to be hurt. She's trading on that, and she knows it. But I also think probably mom would approve to be like, yeah, no, use that. Like, get the kid under control because he's a fascist. He's a believer. He's a
I'm trying everything I can, but it's not working.
yeah.
Well, you go for it.
Yeah. So that
Don't stab him though.
that's yeah. That scene comes later, and that's intense. Okay, what's next? What do we got?
Well, Jojo's starting to soften
Yeah.
towards her, and imaginary Hitler is like, "What are you doing? What are you thinking? Stop it!"
Yeah.
Is this where he's like laying in his bed?
That was so weird.
I'm keeping it warm for you. I know. That was weird.
And then he's like, let's not make this weird. But I'm like, it is weird. It's already
Yeah.
It's like
You have to imagine, and I come back to this, and I know I'm going to beat this dead horse, bury it, raise it again, Frankenstein style.
oh my gosh, Aaron.
But we're you have to remember, and I know that I've said this. It's JoJo.
Yeah.
That's Hitler JoJo. So that's we have to remember, like, JoJo is putting Hitler in the bed. JoJo's making it weird. And I
Why?
think he's 10 years old.
Why is he
he's a
making
weird and awkward little boy. You cannot tell me that none of you were the weirdest, awkwardest things in the world at 10.
But I did
I
not
want-
have an imaginary character who warmed my bed for me. That did not happen.
Or that was Hitler.
Yes, I was
I'm
weird.
glad we can all
Absolutely.
confirm that. Like, that didn't happen in our lives. Fantastic.
For him, like, Hitler was like his rock or
Yeah.
Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan or
his hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, he's going to want it'd be cool if he imagined Hitler is sleeping in his bed, warming it up for him. And then he realizes that it's weird. Again,
So he
remember,
thinks, I wish we all could see this.
10-year-old maturity, 10-year-old logic, 10-year-old
I tried
thought
to make
process.
it make sense in my head.
Well, and then I would just added a whole nother layer because I'm like, okay, well, his dad's not there, so
Right.
maybe this is also like a father
Their figure,
figure,
absolutely.
Yeah, it could
I agree.
be.
which just makes it even weirder.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, because you remember, JoJo doesn't know that his dad's in the resistance.
Yeah, he thinks he's fighting the war.
He's fighting in the
He's
war.
fighting
Yeah.
war.
So his image of his father is that of, okay, well, he's doing Hitler's job.
Yeah.
Mom.
And Mom does an interesting portrayal of Dad.
Yeah, I was going to say we could go right into that because this is a good slide into that scene.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Scarlett Johansson, Johansson is absolutely brilliant in this movie.
One of my favorite actresses.
Like, she rocks every single scene she's in,
Like a boss.
and she portrays a mom who is, in some ways, looks indifferent about her son, but isn't.
Yeah.
Because she just kind of tells them, okay, well, you do whatever you want. Like, you do you. The reason why, obviously, I think we kind of bounced around it, is she doesn't want her son to start figuring out what's going on. She feels, and whether we agree with her or not is probably up for debate. She feels like the safest place for her son is right back with the Hitler Youth, doing everything that the Hitler Youth does, because at least he's out of the house,
Right.
and at least he's with people that she knows are trustworthy.
And we're all off the radar.
This
because of
reminds
that.
me of The Book Thief.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
About how, there was the girl,
Mm-hmm.
and the family was like, she got involved with Hitler Youth.
yeah.
But they were actually part of the Nazi party, and they end up like hiding a Jew in their home. And
Yep.
I feel like that was probably, it reminded me of that.
Yeah, and so and the other thing is, so Mom, you see the and you get the sense that there is at least a friendship between the Hitler Youth commander and Mom.
Well, yeah, she beat him up and he didn't do anything.
Yeah, so there's probably a history there where they've been acquaintances previously.
And
At
there-
least
there's-
acquaintances. There's
Yes.
something. I can feel
There's another scene that alludes to that also.
Yeah, and we'll get there, I think.
Yeah.
So he basically is lipping off to Mom, and I was just like in my head, I'm like, I said that to my mother, I would be seeing stars, and not actually seeing stars. My mother would never hit me, but like,
But I want to.
there would be a disturbance in the force so great that Alderaan would pale in comparison.
And my mother was the same. My mom didn't take that kind of
yeah,
thing.
she would just look at me, and my spine would just crunch.
Yeah, it's the look.
I would be
Mom
like,
look.
oh, I am so going to die tonight.
In
It's
some ways,
over.
our moms are very different, but in some ways,
Yeah.
you and I are raised in a very similar
Yeah.
way. Our parents we get along.
Again, to be very clear, neither of our parents hit us like
Nope.
that. It's not, but it is that understanding. As a 42-year-old boy, like, man, like when I was that age as a boy, like, you had a healthy respect for your mother and your dad. There was no threat of violence in my home, just to be very clear, because I know someone's gonna be like, oh, what are you trying to say? No, I'm not trying to say that at all. But there was the idea of you will respect. Because
Yeah.
if you don't, it's going to be very uncomfortable for you. And you don't want that conversation. And I was like, no, I don't. No, sir, not today. No, ever again. No.
Our moms weren't like. They didn't let us walk all over them.
Oh no! Yeah,
At
they
all.
stood up for themselves. So when he's going after Mom, I'm like, okay, at some point this movie's got to swing back, metaphorically, of course.
Right.
So she says, "Do you want to speak to your father?" He's like, "Yeah." So she grabs his uniform off of the rack, goes to the fireplace, smears coal on half of her face, and says, "If you ever talk to your mom like that," and he's just like.
I don't
then
want my dad.
And then she goes in a conversation and goes back and forth between the characters.
Yeah.
That was epic.
What's
weird.
interesting? So we watched the behind the scenes. We watched the two siblings video before this because I wanted to be prepared, and having seen that scene there and then seeing it here without their commentary, I was like, that is it's wild, right? It doesn't come back again. It's a one scene, one hit wonder. But it is wacky and wild and beautiful because she says, "Oh, you screamed at what are you doing?" I screamed at the boy. You should go apologize. And
Sorry.
This is when I looked at her and said, our Scarlett Johansson to me is always, ever since she was in A Horse Whisperer as like a
Yeah.
13-year-old, she can act her way out of a paper bag.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
yeah, so she does. She was just, "Oh, sorry," whatever. And then they proceed to dance as a family with a. It is wacky. I love.
But it works.
Yeah. It's,
I mean, she puts him up on the chair so he's like tall enough.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
It's cute.
it is. It's adorable. So there is, again, he still loves his mom. He still loves his family.
And I think that's her like still trying to be like, just act like a kid.
Yeah.
Let's just dance and have fun.
Be a child.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun. Let's laugh it up. Okay, next day. What do we get next? After the dancing in the kitchen scene.
Well, he has an interesting job around town. He's passing out. No, he's trying to get stuff for the war.
Yep.
Yeah,
And he's in this weird costume.
Yeah,
And several of them are. He's not the only one.
Yeah, they're all in robot costumes, and they're all getting the
medal and
stuff like that.
pots and pans.
Yeah, pots and pans for Hitler. And this was a thing. They routinely towards the end of the war were scrambling for any kind of metal.
Partially because the resistance was blowing up these factories and stuff.
And the bombings were happening from the United States side, so they were trying to get as much as they could. And he sees his mother put a message on a table.
Yeah.
And his
mom doesn't know it's him. She
doesn't
just
know it's
sees-
him. She just sees the robot, and he begins to understand.
I'm trying to remember what it said.
It
Free
said
Germany.
Free Germany.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
We all, or something about wanting a free Germany or something like that. And so he begins to figure out that mom is doing something she shouldn't.
And this is the downward spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This,
He goes and talks to Elsa, and he's like, she hates me. I'm a Nazi. And then Elsa says something like, no, you're not. And he's like, well, I have a over fascination with swastikas. So what do you think?
If you're a boy in a club, that's all you are.
yeah. She does. I do like how she is the voice of reason in a lot of this.
Yeah.
And she calls him out. And you can see him slowly but surely start to lower his defenses with her.
Yeah, because the next thing that happens, she calls herself a dirty Jew, and he lets her take a bath.
Yep.
It's so sweet.
And I think that was
Oh, yeah. And that leads right into the
Craziness.
woo woo.
Yeah.
so that's right. I forgot about that. So yeah, he does. She says she strokes her face. She's clearly dirty. She's been hasn't probably taken a bath recently.
Yeah.
And so she calls and he kind of just has this look of like, okay. So but he is standing by the door,
Guarding it.
guarding it because again you can't let a Jew be alone.
And the butterflies in the tummy.
And
Oh,
that I
yeah.
love because previously mom had said you will know how you feel about a girl when you have the butterflies, and he says, where does it hurt? And she's like, in your stomach.
I like what he's like, likely in the.
Yeah. Pain in the tuchus is the proper
Tuchus.
translation for
Thank
that. You're welcome. Here to help. Here to help use alternatives.
But she's like, no, it's in the stomach.
Stomach, yeah, you'll feel it, and it's like all these butterflies, and so yuck.
And she's like, yeah, yuck is right.
So then he has the butterflies related to her, and it's adorable because later on he says, as a friend, as a brother, I'm a brother. Like he understands she's older than him. Like it would never work out, but he's like, I love her.
And we kind of skipped over that she technically has a fiance that's also a part of the resistance.
Nathan, right?
Yeah, that joke.
And he's like writing letter like as it was Nathan.
Yeah. So that first letter, he realized he hurt her.
Yeah.
He quickly go, oh. And I love what this movie does is that what it does is it says, look, whoever you hate, whoever you think less of, the minute you start to spend any amount of time with that person or people group or whoever, you can't hate him anymore because you're staring face to face. You are literally standing next to them, living life, and you don't see the things that people say happen or the traits that people say are with these people groups. And slowly but surely, he's realizing she's not this bat who sleeps upside down and does all these crazy things with lizards and everything else in between. And so he's really starting to realize. So he writes her a letter and says, I am old and fat and I am no longer in love with you and you need to be over.
I'm unemployed.
I'm unemployed and I don't believe in the war anymore and all this other stuff. And so then she viscerally reacts to that moment and shuts herself inside, and he kind of.
Oh wait, there's another letter.
Oh, but wait, there's another letter.
This is when I looked at you because I had seen the end at this point. So spoiler alert, listeners. I was like, Aaron, like she already knows that like Nathan is gone. Like why is she upset? She knows this is a lie.
Yeah, but the obsession, the upsettedness, comes from that. So.
I mean, it's just mean. Period.
So so I think what she thought of Jojo, she didn't think he would stoop to that level, and when he did, she really began to understand how much he hates her, and that hurt her.
Yeah.
Because at that point, she thought maybe we're making some progress. Maybe he wouldn't stoop to the lowest possible denominator in this situation, and try and hurt me.
Right.
but he does. And that's her moment of, that's why she shuts herself in that door, because he's shown her that he doesn't care, that he just is going to hurt her no matter how hard he tries.
And he feels instant regret.
He does. You
So
see
it's
it
For
like-
him.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, there's another letter here.
Yeah, there's another letter. And
I actually do want to marry you.
Yeah.
Even though I'm still unemployed and fat.
and does she say thank you to him for that? She opens the
She
door.
just smiles, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said, and so throughout this movie, we only get like a thin smile out of her. We don't get a full face smile. We don't get that full face smile until the very last frames of this movie. And I love how this movie had the courage to say, we're going to hold this. We're not giving you it until the actual end of the movie. So then he writes her letter and says, I'm sorry, whatever, I'm still alive, whatever. What do we got next?
So she's taking the bath, and this is the first time she's able to like roam around the whole house. Like
Yeah.
he's given her
I'm like,
free
oh,
reign.
yeah.
doing?
Okay, so she's running around the house, and then there's a knock at the door.
Yes. Instant fear.
And he tells her, go hide.
Yes.
He doesn't say, oh, I'm going to expose you. He's go hide, go
Yeah,
hide.
yeah.
So she runs up, hides, and he goes, she runs up, he tells her to hide in the door, and then he opens the door, and it is the Gestapo.
Not good.
Yeah.
The most jovial looking Gestapo I've ever seen.
They look like
Okay.
never mind.
I know that the main guy, he is
Yeah.
in something. I just can't
Okay,
put my
I
finger
figured
on
it out.
I figured-
He is the dude that's with Ricky Gervais on Idiot Abroad. The Ricky sidekick, and they send Carl Pinkleton out into different countries. Whoops, I hit the mic.
Yes. No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's that dude.
So I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere.
Yeah. Because I was like that too. I was
Gabriel Andrews, I think, is the actor's name.
Nope, Stephen Merchant.
Oh,
Like, yeah,
okay.
Stephen Merchant. Yeah,
So Stephen Merchant, he plays.
and he's
Oh, I
like
see
really
that.
tall. in
Yeah,
this.
he
He's
plays
insanely tall.
interesting characters. So the Gestapo show up, and they are on a routine visit. Now,
They're
here's
annoying.
something that I
quote
noticed.
unquote routine.
Routine visit. You know that they're here to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's interesting is, what's his bucket? I got to go back here. Hold on. Got to find it. So Sam Rockwell and his assistant show up breathless. Their tires were flattened. And they're like, oh, I had to just carry my bike. And they're like, why are you here? Oh, I was just in the neighborhood, whatever.
Have some more pamphlets to give.
Have more pamphlets. They were there because they knew what was about to go down.
And this is why I'm thinking that like he was helping out his mom.
Helping out mom, right.
Yeah,
Oh.
There you go. There it is.
because
Yeah.
when they go upstairs to keep searching,
Yeah.
and Elsa just comes out and she's like, "Oh, I'm his sister."
Yeah.
Oh
Which
man,
is
she's
very
so
smart.
brave though.
Yeah.
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 I was like, "Girl, you are crazy," and you just see the look of terror on JoJo's
But honestly,
face.
it's really smart. I think they might have found her.
Yeah, totally.
Otherwise, so that was, I think, great.
And she does look a lot like the sister.
Thank
so-
goodness.
Yeah.
She looks like Inga. So that moment, with Sam Rockwell and his assistant's character, and the fact they were like, yeah, my tire was flat, that suggests that the SS Gestapo was trying to slow them down in the end. That because their tire was flat, that they had a suspicion. They didn't want anybody else to try and intervene. They wanted to have the house and JoJo and whoever else to their own.
Right.
But with Sam Rockwell character showing up, now they don't have that protection, and now he's there to make sure everything's okay. So I agree with, I think somebody said it, where we think that Sam Rockwell was involved.
Yeah.
In working with mom.
Well, because they ask her for her papers.
Yep.
And she searches around, she finds them,
And
gives them
he's
to
the
him.
one that takes it. He holds out his hand for it.
Yeah.
He's the one that steps up for it, and the Gestapo
And-
don't stop him.
And you were talking to me. He's like, he knows. I can see on the face, and I'm like, Aaron, why is he? Because I didn't get it. I was like, why is he covering for them?
So
This is amazing, but
Yeah, 'cause
why?
she we find out like right after they leave.
Yeah.
Elsa's upset and she's like, "I gave them the wrong birthday."
yeah,
Yeah.
and JoJo realized he covered for us.
Yeah.
This whole scene is just, it's brilliant, but it's also terrifying because you understand the risks and what is in the balance right now. You know that if something goes wrong here, it's game over.
And you can see it all on JoJo's face.
yeah,
Well, because it would be both of them getting in trouble. It wouldn't just be
yeah.
her.
Yep.
And his mom, who
Yep.
Well,
you know,
At this point, he thinks there's something hinky going on, but he doesn't know for sure what's happening or what his mom is doing. But it's become very clear she is, and so yeah, she finds the ID, shows it to him, gives the birthdays May 1st. It's actually May 7th, but Sam Rockwell's character goes, "Yep, it's all in order. There you go." And the SS guy's like, "Okay, cool, thank you very much."
And doesn't he say something like "take care of your sister"? Or
Yeah,
something
he
like
says
that?
he says take care of your sister Inga, and then he leaves and all that kind of stuff, and she freaks out, and he says, "Well, he covered for us." She's like, "They'll eventually find me. They'll find out." But he then says nobody really knew that Inga died.
Yeah, so you're fine.
Only Sam Rockwell's character probably was the only one that probably was aware because he worked with Mom,
Right.
and had some relationship with her. So it's very interesting the plot device works because it could have been a private burial. They could have just hushed, like, whatever. So tense scene, but beautifully played.
Yeah.
Well,
Followed by an even more tense scene.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the
Yeah.
way they tried to break the ice of that scene was annoying
Okay.
with their little Heil.
Okay. So
That
Hitler
felt
stuff.
so like
Like
Monty
they're waving
Python to
hello.
me. Like
Yeah, that's accurate.
it was.
it was
And
so like too much.
Let's
was-
do it 3 times in a row with everybody.
And it's all through the movie too. Like
Yep.
the movie starts off like that.
Yep.
And then you got this scene right here where it's like, oh god.
Yep.
It's like and Elsa was saying it too. I was like,
Oh, that was awkward.
good play.
Yeah. It was intentional. We're reading in the notes. They're like, it's like, I think it's like 31 times in that scene where it's said.
Oh, no.
But it's what it is. It's an intentional satire. It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's like the scene in Catch Me If You Can, where it's like doctor. Do you concur? Do I concur? Why didn't I concur? Stuff like that. So but it's dealing with some really charged language. But again, sometimes the argument, which I don't know where I stand on this, I know where I sort of sit, but I'm not really sure, of using the word enough that it no longer has power. And that's a very,
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for that. I know that's been suggested by some folks out there in the world, but I'm also just like, there's some things we don't use it until we just don't. Sorry, not going to happen. Not today, Satan. Go ahead.
Well, I just noticed that they don't really do the actual like hand signaling like they really did. They
Yeah.
go like this.
Yeah.
Which is interesting now that thinking back.
Yeah.
They didn't do like the full historical
Yeah,
file.
correct.
It was that them
The
just
salute.
parodying it a
A little bit,
or-
but I also think because we're talking about the end of the war, and everyone's just tired.
Yeah.
And they're also there's not really believers. Like in the way that the Gestapo SS are portrayed is they're just kind of like bureaucrats. Like,
Well, also like, isn't that the way that they saluted Hitler? Actually, like that's how they saluted him. They didn't necessarily
Right.
salute each other that way.
yeah, there was variations, my understanding, but I think it's also just like to kind of make it less. I'm going to sneeze.
Just do it.
Yeah, thank you. That helps.
Just do it.
Great advice. Just do it. Thanks, Phil.
Dude, I don't know what it is. This is like way off the rails, but how come like if you feel like you got to sneeze, you just look up and it'll wow.
Yeah.
It's a psychological brain shortcut. It's the same thing like when someone does sneeze, you say God bless you, or you say bless you, and it stops them. It short circuits. It's almost as if you stop the brain from doing the thing that it wants to do, and then it breaks the consciousness or whatever. I don't know.
Well, there you go. You didn't sneeze.
That makes me want to try it now.
Yeah. Well, there
See
you
if I
go.
can
I
annoy
just
one of my
stare
students.
at a light and then I'll sneeze from doing that.
Well, as long as you don't stare at the eclipse tomorrow, you'll be fine. Get your glasses, folks, if you're going to be looking at the thing tomorrow. Okay. So we have gone.
So into
Let's go back to where. Let's find our way back.
So
home.
they're on the home clear, but then JoJo's out doing
yeah, he
something,
goes to take a walk or
and
something,
he sees a butterfly.
Yep.
and he follows the butterfly.
Yep. And we get punched. It's Mom, and she's been hanged for treason.
Yeah.
And
Now-
the only reason you know it's her is by her shoes.
But again, they
They
foreshadowed it.
foreshadow her shoes
So
much.
what Tahiti says in the notes of this is that we don't have permission from JoJo to see Mom's face.
That's fair.
And I love that he used the character because again, 10-year-old kid, he does look up and see Mom's face. We don't. We see her like in like distant view. We see her with the red hair and all or whatever, but we don't see her up close. And Tahiti said that was an intentional choice because with that particular type of violent end,
Yeah.
he wanted the power to be in the moment. And JoJo stays there. He like grabs onto Mom's shoes and just
Starts tying the
I
shoe.
know,
That's the
that
part
was
that
so
got
sad.
me.
yeah, when we talk about narrative arcs and how things like click into place, him tying those shoes is a nice. It's been referenced throughout the whole movie. You're 10 years old. Why do you know how to tie your shoes? Well, now that Mom's gone, he no longer he has to step up and he has to grow up. he shouldn't have to because of that, but that's what happens. And so when he ties that shoe, it's like, but he sits there for a long time.
I want. This might be like really, really dark, but when I was watching this scene, I was like, "Let go of your mother,"
Right.
because he's like holding on, like she's hanging.
Yeah.
Right. And he grabs her, and obviously he puts his weight on her.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop pulling on your mother.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
just don't
you're,
do that.
You're worried that something's gonna like it's gonna break or like that's where your brain goes because movies have conditioned you to have that happen. But then
Like, it can get worse.
you're like but the movie thankfully doesn't take us there.
Thank God.
Yeah, it doesn't. But he sits on the ground for a while.
And then he goes and does the most insane thing.
What does he do next?
He goes back home.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Okay. So this is where now you don't have to agree with what he does.
Yeah.
You
But
have to understand
I got a lot of anger.
why. Because what in his 10-year-old brain, the reason his mom is dead is because of Elsa.
And she doesn't say anything about what he does either.
No, so she stops him from fully she realizes he's coming for her. Like she looks at him, she's kind of like giving that half smile kind of thing, but she sees the knife out and
She just stands there.
He breaks skin,
He just pokes her,
but she does hold it to stop him. And they don't exchange words, they don't have a conversation.
Then they go look out the window. And
Well, he turns around and then just falls down.
yeah.
He's broken.
Yeah.
This is truly broken JoJo, every which way.
Well, he's like, I have nobody now.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's hopeless. He has nothing.
And I think this is where she tells him that Nathan's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
So I think he writes her a letter or something at this point, and then
actually he doesn't write it. He just takes a piece of paper out
and share
just
it.
pretends like he.
No, you're skipping ahead.
Oh,
This
okay.
is another scene. This is after what happens next.
Okay, so
That's at the very end.
But Elsa, I have the notes here that when he's upset, Elsa reveals to him what his father actually has been doing.
Oh yeah, that
Yes.
that's what it was. That his
And
father
that-
was in the resistance.
And that she knows that like his mom's been a part of the resistance too, and
Yeah.
but she doesn't know all the ins and outs.
Yeah, and I don't know if we said this on the podcast, but the connection between Mom and Elsa is that Elsa had been friends with Inga while she was alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, they had been friends. And so there was that. And it's interesting they don't really lean into it, but it does give us the idea that Inga did know about Elsa.
Yeah, she's her mom said, or JoJo's mom said something to Elsa like, "I didn't get to see Inga grow up, but I will with you."
I will go with you, but then she doesn't.
Yeah.
Because so she tells him, the truth about his dad, he's really it's really messing with his brain.
And this is while they're looking out the window, right? And like the city's
The war's
getting,
coming.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
The city's getting blown up.
yeah, bomb.
Because what's his name? The guy you've been talking about the whole time.
Oh, Tahiti,
No, the other one.
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. Oh, now then I lost my thought. Hold on.
It's so
Oh, because
funny.
he
Like,
said something like the Americans are coming on one side and like the Russians are
Russians
coming
coming
the
from
other.
the
Oh yeah, the walnut. The conversation about like, the
Yeah.
walnut. Sometimes a walnut is just a walnut.
Yeah.
But he's like,
Oh,
yeah,
he's got all the fruit on the map.
Yeah.
the
little
war is
snacks.
over. He's like, I'm trying to plan this whole thing and figure out how to defend.
I designed a new outfit.
Yeah, I designed a new
Oh,
outfit.
that outfit.
Yeah, and he
That
steals
pink cape,
Feather for
annoying
aerodynamics.
music.
Yeah, he steals the colored pencils.
Yes.
Swipes them, and I think Sam Rockwell had to the character had to know that guy like he had, but he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Because again, he's a 10-year-old kid. He needs to go draw with color, and so we get back to what's next.
So basically, this is America's coming in.
Yeah, the
And
war
the
is
city's knocked off that they don't have any supplies coming in.
Yeah.
So they're starving.
And JoJo's just walking around outside in it.
Looking
then
for food in the trash cans.
Yep,
Yeah.
looking for food in the trash
And he
can.
runs into Yorkie, who now has a bazooka.
That. Oh my gosh! And they drop it, and it just
Explodes.
hi, boom.
My kid.
It is funny. I did laugh a little bit.
First of all, the fact that two kids have to carry it,
right.
like,
but this is when Yorkie's like, okay, like Hitler lied to us.
Yeah.
He's been killed. He's not alive.
Yeah.
and you can tell like JoJo's almost kind of sad in a way that
Yeah.
he's dead
And
Yeah.
stunned.
and like stunned.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, Jojo's processing that. And is this the moment where Rebel Wilson's just throwing everybody at, or does that
Yes.
come?
And she's like, "Here's the gun."
Yeah.
Oh,
So
it's horrifying.
So this is the point in the two siblings where the two siblings lost it, and they had several moments where they struggled, but this was where she literally puts her grenade, pulls the pin,
Go give him a hug.
go give him a hug, sends this child to go basically die as a suicide bomber against the forces. She hands another kid she hands, I think at this point, Yorkie, and says, "Go shoot anybody who isn't you."
She puts the coat on Jojo because he doesn't have any like German stuff on.
So she puts it on him.
Yeah.
Tells him to go do something or whatever.
Well, she's like, "This will keep you safe."
Takes the coat off a fallen soldier. Which I was
Yes.
it's severe. All scene is so dark.
Yeah. So
And then she goes out with the bazooka kind of thing. And
then
No,
she
she had like the big machine gun.
Yeah, she goes out, but
And
then
she doesn't last very long.
Yep, she gets blown up. Which I was
Immediately.
Yeah, immediately. Just there she goes. So Jojo's kind of just watching all of this happen. He is just watching the death, destruction, and it is hard to watch. It is not fun to experience because he's watching everything that he knows be destroyed.
And horrifying things like women and children as part of the battle.
Yeah. So then at what point does he get captured?
So he hides, and then he comes out when it's kind of over.
Yeah. And then someone grabs him.
Yeah, because he has the coat on.
And I was like, take the coat off, kid,
I
take the
know.
coat off.
Like,
And in my head, I'm like, well, Aaron, and I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I was saying to you, he's 10 years old. He's in shock.
Yeah.
yeah.
So then he gets pulled in with all the other all the Nazis and his old friend
What's his name?
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
I just call him that.
And Sam Rockwell realizes game over.
Yeah.
Sam knows.
He saves him again.
So he basically says, "Come here." He pulls the coat off of him, kicks him away, and says, "Dirty Jew." And he basically spits on him. And Jojo's like, "No, no, no!" And they're like, "You know, got out here." And then we hear it.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we can talk about this, but I am kind of curious about that moment because in my mind, I would feel that the Americans would be like arresting these Nazi officers.
See, I thought this was the Red Army doing this.
No, this was Americans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of what we're imagining is after Berlin has fallen and we are starting to get control. What we are seeing with this moment is Berlin is still in a state of chaos, and the Americans are upset. They are pissed because they have been discovering death camps in their travels into Berlin.
Right.
So you've got a bunch of American soldiers, and there is some. I mean, it's not. We didn't shoot everybody. But there are instances where, German SS officers, German army officers were captured, and American officers were like, "You ran like." They were this is not a statement of support. This is not a statement of like making it okay. This is a statement of what happened in some cases. There were German officers who were done. That was done to.
Yeah,
That comes up in Band of Brothers.
They didn't make it to trial.
Yeah, they didn't make it to
Because
trial.
I was just curious because I know there's a lot were brought back for war crimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no.
So,
There was a good number that were caught, captured, and put in prisoner camps and that kind of stuff. But there were incidences, isolated or numerous, where American and Russians were no less kind.
No, they were
Worse.
I think they were worse.
Yeah, the Russian army.
Unspeakable, some of the things they did.
Yeah,
to
and
civilians included.
I'm not laughing about it, but it is you. If you want to, you look at two separate stories of two separate armies. The American army was upset because they were running across all these concentration camps. Russians were pissed because Germany had turned on them and had basically declared war on them when they were originally allies.
Right.
They were also upset because Germany had thrown everything at them and basically had leveled Stalingrad and done all kinds of horrible things there.
Yeah.
And so you've got an army who is being pushed, pulled, dragged, kicked, and threatened by Stalin at the time that they have to do this or they will be shot themselves. There's a whole dynamic on that side
Right,
too.
yeah.
It's very complicated.
So when you talk about the war in 1945 in Berlin, as all this is happening, it is not 2024 where we have satellite communication and we got radios are working. Radios were not working all the time. There was not 100% sight on everything, and there were some things that happened that probably weren't acceptable through a 2024 lens. put yourself in the shoes of a 1945 soldier. I don't know.
I just wanted to know the historically accurate, I guess.
As much as without digging into the Wikipedia and doing the research now, I can tell you that yes, there were incidents where that occurred.
Yeah.
But there are also stories where they and it's a well-known story where when they came upon a camp, they went into the town and told the citizens, "You're coming with us. You get to see this." And the citizens were either some of them had known and some of them were not. And it was like, no, you get to see this. You get to see what you lived a mile away from and ignored. And so there's equal parts story of good, hey, you need to deal with this. But also stories of, war is hell and it's not pretty. Again, it's not an excuse. We're not saying we're okay with that, but it is what it is and it happened. And so to your question, yes, it more than likely happened. And understanding the why is the key to that conversation because
I'm thinking this is an officer who is in the front lines, someone you could take back and charge with
sometimes
it seems like he was also working with the resistance also.
Well, yeah.
But they didn't know that.
Yeah, they didn't know.
And his thing was he was going to get JoJo out of there.
Yeah.
That was
also he's wearing his all new outfit.
Yeah,
that makes him look like he's some big macho dude. So yeah, they definitely
think he's probably something important.
Yeah,
but again, it's that whole dynamic of what happened in the opening in that day of craziness in Berlin, where control was out. There was no control, and it took us a bit of time to get everyone on the same page, and eventually we figured it out.
What war does to you? I just finished reading. This isn't the same war at all, but I just finished reading a Kristen Hanna book, The Women, which talks about Vietnam, and it talks about these POWs who'd escaped from a prison, and it talks about what they did to their captors once they got free, and it's stuff that it's unspeakable.
Yeah, Vietnam's one of the worst for that.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, there's. If you ever want to read an incredible story of survival and of perseverance, The Unbroken, the story of Louis Zamperini, which is an incredible story of a man's courage and a soldier's perseverance to not give up and not surrender his values in his life. So anyway, so now the war is coming to an end. JoJo realizes that he needs to go talk to her. He runs.
And he lies to her.
He lies to her. He says no.
She's like, is the war over? Who won? And he's like, we did. Germany.
Yeah.
And here's the last little letter.
The last little letter. He says, I hope that you will be happy. Da, da, da. We'll still get married. Blah blah blah.
We've come up with a plan to get you to escape.
We found a plan. And then she says he's been dead. He died of whatever he died of. Was it pneumonia? It wasn't pneumonia.
No.
It was something.
But it was something during that time.
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis. There it is.
Yes.
Thank you, Phil. He died of tuberculosis. And he's like, oh, well, this is awkward.
Yeah. But he's like, I still have a plan.
I still have a plan.
Oh, and he says, I love you, but I know that I'm 10 years old.
Yeah.
And she's like, I love you too. And he's like, you mean like a little brother? And she's like, yeah, like a little brother.
Again, that thin smile that she's so good at portraying. And so he then leads her out, and she realizes.
And the Jeep comes by and they're waving the American flag. Woo!
Yeah. Oh, but hold on. Before that, he goes into the kitchen and he has one last standoff with imaginary Hitler.
Oh, yes, this is the best scene.
Yeah. So Hitler's like, what are you doing? And you can notice that Hitler's got a wound on his head.
Which I wonder, if that's... JoJo has lost his innocence. He's seen war.
JoJo knows that Hitler killed himself because Yorkie told him. So that's now in his head as to the condition
that he's hurt.
That he's dead.
Yeah.
He's got a wound on his head. So Hitler tries to be like, no, we need to go back to the way we were. And obviously we can't say the words that JoJo says to him. But it's yeah. He says
it's a nice burn. So.
Yeah, it is an absolute and he kicks him. And he goes flying out the window. Yes. Not by choice previously. Previously jumped through the window.
Right, yeah.
This time, he's gone. And it's a nice moment for JoJo because it's this is
redemption.
This is redemption for him. So he leads her out, and the Jeep comes by, and she realizes that he wasn't telling the total truth.
Whoops.
And at first, she looks at him like she's angry.
Yeah.
But then she slowly starts to move.
She slaps him.
Yeah, she slaps him, and he says, I probably deserve that, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
She slaps him, and she says, I deserve that. And I think he even says, I didn't want to lose you or something. I don't know if he verbalizes it, but he kind of explains, I'm okay now, I just, you're whatever. And then he says, "Well, what are we going to do now? What are you going to do now that you're free?" Or we're
And
free?
that's when she just stares at him and slowly starts to
do
move.
the little
And
dance.
they both start dancing.
Yep.
But she said before that's the first thing she wanted to do.
when she was free.
Yeah.
And so that's how the movie ends.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant little movie. It is.
It is. Yeah.
It's unflinching, but it has the appropriate moments where you're allowed to kind of chuckle and laugh a little bit. But it also says you're here for the whole time. Like we're not playing games today.
You definitely need to be in the right mindset to watch.
Yeah, you do. And that's why like we had to be very mindful of the time of day that we watched it and when we watched it, because I was like, I don't like, so my Vicki works as a paid employee, part-time paid employee at our church. And I was like, we're not watching this on a Saturday night because you're going to go into church with your job as a like choir leader person and you're going to have this in your head and that's not going to be good. And I was in the same boat. I was like, I don't want to watch it on Saturday
Just
night.
because I was already coming in sleep deprived because of the stupid wind in the gate.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been filling the role of the Windy City here in Colorado for the last day and a half. You're welcome, Chicago. You can take your air back. It's all yours. So yeah, there you go. I'm guessing we probably like at least 9 out of 10s on this one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
We don't got to debate that one. So if you're out there and you're wondering, should I still see this movie, despite the fact they probably spoiled it all for you? Spoiler alert. That's the part of the show here. You should definitely check it out.
It's like
It
our
is.
subtitle at this point.
Yeah. It's an absolute brilliant film that will definitely have you push you and it'll make you think. And it's a lot. It's a deep, like dialogue, conversational movie. There's a lot of dialogue in here that'll push and pull you.
And I feel like it's a movie that every time you watch it, you're going to get something new out of it.
Yep, absolutely.
So
I agree.
Well, let's for future,
Yes.
not right now,
Yeah.
but I've brought it up many times on this podcast so far.
Yes.
The one aspect of World War II that did not cover is the Japanese.
True.
Yeah.
And that is what Grave of the Fireflies does. And if
Okay.
you got a little chuckle out of this movie, out of, Jojo Rabbit,
Yeah.
Grave of the Fireflies will not give you that.
Yeah. No.
no chuckles.
It is unapologetic.
Yeah.
And amazing movie, though. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
hopefully we can get into it one day.
Yep.
But we need a break.
Yes, we do. We yeah. Do we have an idea about what we want to do next week?
Probably something light and fluffy.
Yeah, light and fluffy.
Can we do
I was gonna say Pink Panther, but that's me. What were you thinking?
I don't like Pink Panther. I
I'm
like the
with you.
cartoons.
You don't like? Are you talking like the new one or the old one?
Any of the live action, I don't like.
Really? Okay.
I like the cartoons.
I'm totally with Phil here because you've tried. I know you
I-
love it. I know.
Fine, Phil. What did you have on for idea?
I was going to suggest Just Married.
Okay.
That is a light and fluffy movie.
Okay, sure. Let's do Just Married.
And then maybe we could do Pink Panther afterwards.
No, because y'all are gonna hate it. It's gonna be a hate fest of just I don't want to like I don't. I'm all about punishment, like Pauly Shore, Pinocchio.
my
No, it's never again.
That was a pleasure to experience and just like talk about it because we all were just like, what is this movie and why does it exist?
I don't know if Phil failed his test.
Yeah, I did.
It's not a pleasure
I sure
watch.
did.
So I don't want us to enter into
Thanks
that.
for reminding me.
Oh my gosh.
But you were able to retake it, right?
No.
See, You have to be
Pauly
careful.
Shore, you destroyed Phil's test.
Well, now I feel like we need to watch a good Pauly Shore movie.
Goofy movie.
Encino
Goofy
Man.
movie.
Yeah, we do Goofy.
Goofy movie.
That could be a compromise.
Let's do. Okay, so here's the thing. What was the other one you said about Just Married? So we'll do Just Married, and then we'll do Goofy movie after that, and then we'll approach, if we can find it. We'll do
Grave of the
Phil's one movie as well. So
Well, yeah, my mom is on a hunt for that. So
we have a scout. We have a resource
Scout.
working
Love
it out.
it.
All right. Well, that's it for today.
That's it.
That's it. That's all we got.
That's all, folks.
Yep. There we go. My name is Aaron.
My name's Vicki.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Zoe.
And this has been Nerds by Screenlight. We'll catch you next week for either Just Married or Goofy. We'll decide which one we do, and then you'll get to hear us talk about it and enjoy it. And if you haven't watched either of those movies and you want to jam along with us on the next episode, definitely watch those movies, and you'll enjoy it on both sides. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.
The raspberry flapovers will be out in a moment. The kitchen is closed.
You've been listening to the Nerds by Screenlight podcast, presented by Create at Morgan Productions, located in Fort Morgan, Colorado, USA. For more information on our production house, other podcasts hosted here, and further details, please visit www.createatmorgan.org. You can find us on Twitter at the handle CreateAtMorgan. Create at Morgan is a school club at Lincoln High School, our alternative education campus in Morgan County. Our sponsor is Aaron DeLay, a language arts teacher at Lincoln. Send any feedback to adelayedteacher@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to our podcast.